Hello again, FA Nation. Justin Fensterman here, and it's time for another episode of ADP TV here on FantasyAlarm.com. We're getting you ready for your fantasy football drafts. Let's talk about where players are going as of late. Some players who have risen when it comes to average draft position, other players who have fallen, and players who are just in good and less than ideal draft spots, where they're going on fantasy football draft boards. Let's get ready to win those rings. This is what it's all about. Let's do it together, and your Fantasy Alarm family is behind you. Let's get to the latest episode of ADP TV. Let's hit you with a couple of rookies to start off this episode. Let's start with Isiah Pacheco. He's risen on draft boards 150 spots over the last few weeks, and he's shown he can be utilized both on the ground and in the air, and he caught a couple of passes in preseason. Clyde Edwards-Helaire has missed time due to injuries in the last couple of seasons, and from what we've been reading about Ronald Jones, he's lucky if he even makes the team at this point. But should we be spending beyond a 10th round pick on Pacheco in 12-team leagues without certainty that he'll get at least 50% of the carries? Unsure. Both he and Edwards-Helaire can catch passes, and it's very hard to tell at this point who will be the true number one when it comes to the Chiefs running backs. Another rookie on the rise, George Pickens from the Steelers. He's risen up draft boards over 60 spots, and he continues to get rave reviews out of camp. He is a deep threat, and he shined in the Steelers' first preseason game while both Diontae Johnson and Chase Claypool didn't play. The Steelers should be taking a lot more shots downfield with Ben Roethlisberger retired. The big question still remains whether or not Pickens will be prioritized over Chase Claypool regarding who the true deep threat is in the Steelers' offense. Both of them can go deep, pretty similar, but who will be the number 2 target behind Diontae Johnson? Player who's going at a good draft spot right now, A.J. Dillon. Dillon has been toggling between being drafted in the 5th and 6th rounds of 12-team leagues. Both he and Aaron Jones can have success in the Packers' offense. The Packers don't have a lot of weapons, and Davante Adams is hard to fill in for. Jones will be utilized a decent amount in the passing game, and it wouldn't be surprising to see Dillon get more carries than Jones regarding they play an even amount of games this year. Dillon also showed last season that he could catch passes. I'm predicting that Dillon scores at least 10 touchdowns this year for the first time in his young career, thinking he will get more carries than Jones as the bigger back, and now he's a bit more proven. Now for some players who are trending down, Tom Brady. Brady has dropped an average draft position over a round in the last few weeks. Some have thought that he was mulling retirement. Others thought that maybe he was part of a TV show. But according to the reports that we saw this morning, he did show up to Tampa's facility, which is a good thing. But before you give that sigh of relief, Brady won't have as much protection on his offensive line going into the year with Ryan Jensen and now Aaron Stinney out. Tristan Wirfs is also banged up. We can't forget, though, that Brady threw for over 5,300 yards, most in the NFL, 43 touchdown passes, also most in the NFL, and completed over 67% of his passes. And he shouldn't be without Chris Godwin for long, if at all. Also trending down is Josh Jacobs. He's been dropping, and rookie Zamir White is rising on draft boards. Jacobs is now being drafted in the 7th round of 12-team leagues. With the arrival of Davante Adams, Jacobs' receptions will likely take a hit, making him even more dependent on carries. He should still get 200, but other running backs could threaten that. He rushed for just 3.95 yards per carry over his last 2 seasons. Yikes. And he's not running behind the best offensive line in the league. Let's talk about Drake London a bit, because I'm a bit down on him. He's been drafted in the 7th and 8th rounds as of late in 12-team fantasy football leagues, but we don't know who his quarterback will be by the end of the season. Remember, he may have been the first receiver taken in the NFL draft, but the QB depth in Atlanta could hinder his production. He'll be getting top coverage from opposing corners, and Kyle Pitts could end up being the prioritized receiving weapon for the Falcons. There's just a lot of uncertainty when it comes to this team, and current starter Marcus Mariota hasn't thrown 400 passes since 2017, and the last time he did, he completed just 62% of those passes.